think we're live. Charlie.
Yes, we are.
Yep, we are live.
Yes, we are.
What's happening, guys? Aloha Friday, everybody.
What?
Yeah, right there. They all thought we was what they was watching on replay. Happy Hump Day, guys. Happy Hump Day. Happy Hump Day Wednesday. Hope you guys all having a great,
Yes.
great hot week. It's miserably hot, man. I mean, it's hot. I get the AC blowing and
Yep.
it's just hot, man. It's hot. How is it in Waimea Valley in Smoky Valley?
Well, it's basically doldrum. I mean, you can see things passing overhead, but down below, it's like you tell a neighbor, "Excuse me, can you move the house to the side so I can catch some wind too?" It's one of those.
I'm
It's one
hoping
of those.
the winds pick up in the next couple of days. It's just so hot, man. It's just and muggy. Yesterday, last night was so muggy. Oh, miserable. But it was a gorgeous day. I mean, for those that are at the beach surfing and fishing, it was a beautiful day. A lot of tourists, bro. I had the good pleasure today to have lunch with my good brother Charlie out there in Hanapepe at Wong's. And I was as I was driving out, I stopped at Salt Pond and drove down around. I see a lot of visitors, a lot of visitors,
Yeah.
man. Um, and it is
But
very clear that the mask mandate now is gone. You know what is interesting? I had to stop at the gas station in Wailua on the way home, and the local residents still wearing their masks, like myself. You come out of the car and automatic already. It's a habit, right? The mask go on. But when you look around and you see you obviously know the visitor, the tourist versus the resident. And yeah, no masks, man. Nobody wearing masks. But like I said, the residents going in either to go pick up their soda or whatever, buy their food. Um,
Mhm.
they wear their mask, man. They all wear their mask. So it's interesting how, and I think that Charlie, you talked about that phenomenon that Dr. Murtaza talked about in Florida. I think it's the same here. That's what I've witnessed in the first day, anyway.
Well, it's funny, and thanks for having lunch today. And after I left you and back to teaching, I want to say to all the security officers out there, don't forget now, June 30th is the deadline. You guys all got to get renewed. I've been snapping I know KCC has classes. I've been giving classes, and it's tough. It's tough. But you know, the students, they're good. You don't even have to tell them. I said, if you've been vaccinated, you want to take off your mask, up to you guys. Whatever you feel comfortable with, right? They said, no, sir, we'll keep our mask on, socially distant. You know what I mean? And what's kind of real easy when you give the class, they're chiming in, but they're all at a social distance. You on big screen, you PowerPoint everything, right? You walk them through. But I'm just impressed, because you get different ages, you get young ones, you get older ones, but everybody seems to be catching on what needs to be done. And so when I finally was finished and I did leave to come back to Waimea, I have to say that I was equally impressed watching some of the visitors driving and having the mask on in the car. I went right on. But yet I wasn't worrying about the mask anymore. I was wondering, how much did you pay for that rental car?
Yeah.
I was, man, that looks like a really expensive rental car today, unless you had on deal way before this pandemic hit. I mean,
Yeah,
it's,
you're the
it's just
lucky
a horror
ones.
right
You're
now.
the lucky ones.
Yeah.
It's interesting how you almost feel for these visitors. I feel sorry
Yeah.
for them that spend all the money to get here and cannot even get a car, cannot get transportation, and but we're not slowing down, bringing them in. We aren't slowing down. We filling them up, and we talked about that on Monday night about how irresponsible I think that is when you know your infrastructure. And when I say infrastructure, it doesn't just mean the roads and the sewer and the water. It's that. It's the accommodations, whether it's hotel, car, any type of accommodations that these visitors use, cannot sustain it. Cannot
Mhm.
sustain it. So to allow them to come in knowing and not warning them, you know, that to me it's not fair. It's not right, and
Well,
they're
I
finding
did,
out the
I did
hard
want,
way.
yeah, I did want to say to our viewers again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know after doing this for nearly 14 months, we're at a stage now that it's just very difficult to get speakers to come and join us. And yeah, because I think a lot of them feel like it's ramping down. There's because I know when we first started, there was a lot of controversy, and we were trying to vet the information to see what is the most credible information that could be put out there. That's what it was all about. What kind of information can we put out there? And I'm glad that those who joined us, good or bad, at least they contributed. And we're at a point that it's gotten to the point that we kind of saturated. I mean, I think we're just like MSNBC. Even they, if you watch them or CNN or some of even Fox News, you see the people that come on. It's not so much about COVID anymore. It's talking about the new amount of stimulus checks that's coming up, another round of that $1,400 stimulus checks they're talking about. They equated to what, $391 billion. I mean, I think government needs to realize that as long as you wave that carrot, you don't give people the incentive to want to go back to work. Because, if you made up for way past the amount of time they stayed out of work, I'm sorry, but don't you think you're kind of like juicing the pocket a little bit now? Now, at one point, that's all going to come back to a vicious circle. It's going to come right back where it's payback time. And I'm just wondering if you're going to break some people. If the person is not fiscally responsible to spend their money in a responsible way, when that time comes around, will they have the gumption enough to have money to dish out to pay back? You know what I'm saying? And I'm just wondering. I'm just wondering.
Well, our kids and grandchildren are going to end up paying this outrageous pandemic bill. That's the money
Mhm.
that as a former legislator for the county, you just keep pumping out the money. Uh, and it's not a political show, but I'm saying at some point somebody got to pay that money back, and there's no hesitance. It's all about it's politicians that are telling people, we want to give more money, we want to give more money, we want to give more money. If you think about it, we've had a problem with drugs, and we've had a problem with homelessness, we've had a problem with all kinds of social issues in our country, and government very hesitant to pump out the kind of money that they have for COVID. We have a lot of jobs that people cannot fill, as you mentioned, Charlie. You get employers right now begging for workers, and yet why in the world would anyone go work when they can make as much or more staying home? We set up this whole thing to fail, and while I think there was a period of time that was needed and necessary to sustain families so they could pay their food and bills, and I
Mhm.
think based on what is going on now and the jobs that have been open and the jobs that are available, it's time to get people back to work if that's the motivation. So we'll see what happens, but it's a real problem, Charlie. You and I both know. We both know of people looking for workers. I always am
Yeah.
so impressed and so much respect for people that I know personally that worked in the hotel industry that got let go or put off on furlough or whatever because of the pandemic. And you know that some of them went back and did jobs that they didn't want to. They didn't want to go and pick up this job that paid them half of what they were getting paid at the hotel, but they did. They went back to work at what was available, even if it was uncomfortable. And I have a lot of respect for people like that. Um,
You know, my son, he he called up and he was on the verge of, he was so frustrated. He was on the verge of crying. I mean, I've never seen him that angry. And I said, baby, what's wrong? You know, he paid child support for the last 20 something years, you know, two boys. He wasn't a deadbeat father like some knuckleheads out there. Yeah, he had two more children from a different his current relationship, which is a great mom. You know, support them, and he got called back to work on Maui Hyatt. You know, he never left work. I should say that. And he was so upset because some of his coworkers that were called back, they said, nah, they turned it down. So he would be working 16, 20-hour shifts, you know, to cover that blind spot. And that's why he was so angry. He said, you know, Dad, I like to stay home too to see my, you know, I got a brand new daughter. I like to see her. But you know what? You always taught me, you always taught me, know your responsibilities and don't shirk it off on anybody else. And I said, well, you know, son, in this case, they're dumping it on you. And I said, but you know, son, you're a good man. You're a good man. And that's all I could say. But my son is, huh, I just don't like seeing him get mad. It's very hard to stop when he gets upset. And it's very rare, but he's one of those that if he gets really upset, watch out. And he was, and I said, baby, what were you mad about? He says, it's the principal, Dad. They're offering work to come back. And these guys, it's not like they're making 15, 16 an hour. They're in the 22 and over range. And, you know, they just don't want to work. I says, well, if you got other people out there that have the credentials, go hire them. He says, that's what I'm going to do, Dad. That's what I'm going to do. And he did. Oh, you know, you get it, all these guys want to come back and they get the union involved. He says, hey, we gave you an opportunity. You never like come back. So sorry, union, stay out of it. You know,
yeah,
stay out of it. Because union, you could have helped us too, but no. Did you give us a helping hand? No. Just like you was encouraging them to stay out. So sorry, you know, one
yeah,
of those things.
yeah. So we'll see as how things roll out now as more things open up, which
Yep.
which is the other issue. I think the other concern is: are we moving too fast? Are we? Um, I got a couple of stories that I'll put up, but you know, the question is, are we moving too fast? Are we putting out the message? The message I'm getting right now, Charlie, from the governor and the lieutenant governor is that, you know, we're doing so extremely well. And, you know, we have, again, we have sources that share stories with us from inside the hospital systems in Hawaii. So we know, and I'm not even gonna talk about numbers because I just want the public to know that the numbers that they give you of COVID cases in hospitals may be somewhat accurate, but the numbers of beds, available beds in our hospitals are scary. The availability. There are a lot of beds being used by COVID and
Mm,
non-COVID people. So, but the
exactly.
message you listen to the governor's press conference yesterday was, you know, it's like we've turned the corner and we're heading to normalcy. That was yesterday, and everybody was or maybe Monday, and then people were jumping for joy, and then today, let me just today you uh, this one here. Today, you see this story. The new report shows that highly infectious COVID-19 variants are accounting for most cases in Hawaii. And this is the part that I'm referencing right here. There's also a growing presence of the highly infectious P1 variant, which health officials say may be more resistant to antibodies from vaccination or previous infection. So
It's a Brazilian one.
yeah,
Brazilian
this is
variant.
Kila one. And variants of concern, oops, make up more than 90% of the cases sequenced by the lab. More than 90%. So this is today's news that comes out today. And if you compare this with yesterday's message, you see the little conflict where yesterday was, we got it under control. You get your vaccine, you're immune, total immunity, and you can do whatever you want. Now we can take off our masks. And then today it's Department of Health is saying, oh,
Well,
pump the brakes
you know,
because this highly infectious P1 variant is present, and it may not be resistant
but
to the vaccine.
but if you read your second highlighted area, it says in January when they discovered the first variant, in just under 4 months, the variants of concern has overtaken the original virus.
Yep.
There, you see, it says variants of concern now make up 90%, right? We detected our first variants in January, and in just 4 months, they have replaced the original COVID-19 lineages as a COVID we find most often. So what that's saying is that when COVID first came on the scene, in just 4 months, those variants have overtaken the original COVID that was first detected. That is scary. It took 4 months to replicate, duplicate, triplicate, and fornicate, and now you got all these Kates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've been saying this for a while now. That because really, when people hear, and I'm not suggesting that we go out and scare people, but I think the people deserve to know the truth, and that you don't hear this from our leaders. You hear this from the Star Advertiser. You hear this from the news media, but you don't hear it from our leaders coming out. When you listen to the leaders, again, you tend to believe that it's safe, that it's, yet they tell you don't let your guard down, but they're allowing you to let your guard down. They're allowing you to let your guard down when they lift a mask mandate, but they tell you don't let your guard down. So that's the conflicting stuff that I think is scary. And we talked about this, Charlie, and I know you raised this probably a month or maybe longer ago about the time frame of the efficiency or effectiveness of the vaccine. And try to remind us again about how long is this vaccine good for, and what happens when that time runs out with 90% of the cases being variants.
So when I first brought that up, I said, okay, the efficacy of the, how effective this thing is, we were like, whew, we're feeling pretty darn good. But then every once in a while, you get this patting of the shoulder, like saying, hey, don't forget the booster. Don't forget the booster. So that's what prompted me to ask, okay, well, if the initial dose lasts, 6 months, right? It lasts 6 months. Many who got the vaccination, the main crowd that went in when it first hit the scene was December, January, right? If we're talking about June or July, right now, we're right in that season, when it starts to get warm. We're right in that season, and they talk about it is they worry about these spikes, just like the others, like last summer, right? We had those spikes when we didn't have the vaccine. So what they're doing is we're looking at this time frame and say, gee, if we don't know for sure, but there's an estimation about 6 months, then we'll be primed to get nailed right in that window. And so that's why I asked the question. I said, then, you know, how the hell do we fight this darn thing? And yet, we got those smart ass people out there that, that's why this and that. I said, okay, I get it. I'll just stay with my mask. And you know what? If I look weird, like how our Asian traveler looked back in the 80s, back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, coming to Hawaii with mask on, and we didn't understand why. Guess what? We understand why now. And I said, I have no problem copycatting them at all. I have no problem, even if you laugh at me. What I do have a problem is if you don't like it and you put your finger on me, then that's a problem. But other than that, you can swear up and down, call me whatever you like. Just don't touch me. That's all I care about. And I'm going to use a mask because I'm living proof of one who gets colds, even with vaccine shots every year. I can say on my parents' grave and on a stack of Bibles, I never got sick this year, thanks to the mask. I'm a believer of the mask.
Yep, I think a lot of people are figuring that out. That the mask really does help. But what's interesting is when the CDC came out and said that they recommended that you don't need to wear a mask if you're fully vaccinated and you're outside. This is maybe Charlie, because of our background and our training, that we're too analytical. Maybe we dissect the messages from these people too much. Maybe we're looking too hard, but this is what I saw. Okay, so CDC comes out and says, hey, the new recommendation, if you're outdoors, you're fully vaccinated, you don't need to wear a mask. Now the governor comes out and says, we're not ready for that. We're not going to make that move. I'm not going to change anything until we get to herd immunity, which I don't care what Josh Green says. He wants to say 75%. He can say whatever he wants. We know the number is in the 90 or 90+%. And we also heard Dr. Fauci tell us, pay no attention to herd immunity because it's a number we probably won't get there. We heard that echoed by Dr. Murtaza as well. So the governor just a short time ago says, we're not going to make the move until we get closer to herd immunity, which was, however you define that. And then not long after that, he comes out with this lifting of the mask mandate, knowing very well that we don't know where we're going to be with the first batch of people that took vaccines. How long is this vaccine good for? And I'll put up another article in a little bit, but we don't know that right now. So we are just reaching the first 6-month group. That'll probably be somewhere around June, which is when the summer travelers are going to come, and travel is going to going through the roof. But now you pick a time where we don't know if the vaccine is going to even be working. We don't have boosters lined up for our people, so we don't know. We just don't know. And all of a sudden, he makes the announcement, and we find out that Honolulu Marathon, the Big Island Triathlon, Ironman, all of these events have been planned and been taking reservations as if they knew that this was going to happen. But the problem I have with it is it's coming at a time right before we're going to find out if, in fact, the vaccine going to still be working after 6 months. So I guess, again, maybe it's the way we look at things, the way we dissect things. Maybe we look at everything suspiciously. And
I will give you my quick assessment just to dovetail with what you just said. The mistake I think officials have made, and this is like, oh, who is that big Hawaiian on the TV to say that? Well, this is Uncle Charlie, and I'm going to say it anyway. The mistake we made is we started to listen to quantification when everything was being quantified, right? Here you have a pandemic, And you're already looking at it like, now we're going to be safe if we reach X number of percent. We shouldn't have said anything at all. That would have kept the people just going, taking the vaccine. But once you put a number out there today, we already get 500,000 people already vaccinated in Hawaii. Why do you think things will slow down? Because get those out there said, well, you know, you got 500,000 people got vaccinated. Hey, good. We don't need to worry now. The majority of them are vaccinated. That's how herd immunity works, right? You compare those with vaccinated, those who had gotten the virus dies on its own, whatever, right? Why did you even go put it out there? Because there are many people out there that go by numbers. And we used numbers before. But in this case, the numbers kind of hurt us. That's what I think. Because we started to quantify everything, right? So instead of just saying we're working towards a solution to get rid of this virus or to hold it down. But when you give people this formula that in order to kill this virus, you need to achieve herd immunity. You have the layman trying to understand, what does herd immunity do? And then all we're doing is we're looking at it, okay, we're in a room, got 5 of us. 4 of us is vaccinated, 1 is not. We should be safe, right? Now, this non-vaccinated guy, instead of going and get vaccinated, he says, hey, I was in a room with 4 vaccinated guys and nobody's worried. So therefore, I can go out and I'm going to assume everybody else around me is vaccinated. So I don't need worry. Then it's the replication of that attitude that keeps on getting worse. It starts to snowball. It snowballs to a point that, hey, nobody making heads or tails of what the hell is going on, right? And that's what happened. So it's like what we were saying from day one. You know, if you got a set of marching orders, whether we've participated in it or not, let's all march to the same beat. Right now, we're not even nowhere near that. Because what was the first thing they told us from day one? We can't do a lot of tests because why? There's not enough tests. Oh shit. You got airlines open up testing. You got this open up testing. Next thing you know, you got testing coming out of your collar. You got so much testing right now, you don't know what to do.
Well, the problem, Charlie, is I don't think they realized that people was paying attention. I don't think they realized that people, and I'm not saying Charlie and Mel, I'm talking about the general public, were paying attention and listening because you know what? They were scared. They wanted to know what was going on. And you know, we said from very on, this virus doesn't work on a timeline. This virus is going to act as this virus wants to act. That's just how it works. And we've heard that from all of the experts that we've had on the show. But what our state, two things that they locked into, and more specifically, Lieutenant Governor, 2 things. Number one, like you said, Charlie, he put a figure of 75%. And you know why? Because that's what the experts were saying at the time. Mm-hmm. Remember, nothing is fixed in this virus. Nothing is stagnant. It's a living virus, so things change. Well, it didn't change for the Lieutenant Governor. He's still remaining at 75% today, while all the experts have acknowledged that it's much higher. That was number one. The second thing was he had on paper put down how we were going to reach that numbers with the vaccine. He didn't account for the amount of people that would not want the vaccine, that could not get the vaccine for medical reasons or religious reasons or whatever the case. Listen, I want everybody to get the vaccine, but I am not going to disrespect anyone that chooses not to get this vaccine. So, but he thought that everybody was going to get the shot. All we had to do was provide the numbers of shots, people would line up. Well, he was right until everybody got the shot. And then, he thought everyone was going to get the shots. We're going to hit 75%. The problem is, if you take out the age groups, and that may be different now because we're allowing younger people to take it, but at the time, 75% was the number. Mathematically, if you remove that age group, the demographic of the population that could not take the vaccine, you couldn't reach 75, even if every single soul took the vaccine that could.
That's why you had to use That's why you had to use this age group for make up those numbers. So because you would not achieve what you're trying to achieve.
No one took into account that that demographic that the vaccine could not be given to because it had not been approved would make it mathematically impossible to reach that figure. And as that figure started to grow, the more and more impossible it was going to be to reach herd immunity. That is not an opinion. That's the fact. That's just the way it is. That's the number. You only get so many people, so you cannot. So that's what the lieutenant governor banked it on, and then they realized, damn it, we're not going to get to herd immunity. We're not even going to get to 75%, much less 90. And we get the
Brother, you
Ironman, we get the marathon, we get all these businesses, this visit industry that's yelling down our ears, telling us we got to open up. So they
you
started
know
to
what?
paint this picture of how good everything is turning out to be, and yet when you look at the real stories, the actual stories, and you're finding out you guys better not, you guys, you government leaders better not let your guard down. Not the public. You guys are the ones setting the rules.
Well, this is what we should have learned. And I'll be the first to admit, you know, the biggest mistake I made is understanding the word immunity. He uses that a lot. We're going to be immune, okay? He's wrong. But the experts told us what the vaccine will do. The vaccine will lessen the severity. What that means is it's still possible for you to catch it, right? That's what the experts say. It will lessen the symptoms to
Right.
prevent death, right? Okay. That is not immunity. Immunity is when you don't can catch a damn thing, period, as far as I'm concerned, by definition, right?
Right.
So what the experts are saying is that we are lessening the blow when you take the vaccine. That's why everybody like, oh, I was vaccinated, but I still got COVID. Because they said, yeah, it's possible, but it's just that you're not going to get the symptoms as bad if you get the vaccine. If you didn't get the vaccine, you get COVID, there's a good possibility you'll go downhill, right? So having said that, I blame myself for, gee, Charlie, why didn't you just key on that word immunity from day one? Then we could have saved everybody the headache. Because why? The experts say this vaccine will help lessen the blow so that you'll eliminate mortality rates, right? You'll be able to recover quicker if you should get it. They're telling you this because if they said that this vaccine was going to you're going to be immune, that means that you don't even have to worry about that because you're not going to catch it. No, they didn't say that. They just said that the symptoms will be much, much more mild. So for the lieutenant governor to completely repeat that you're going to face full immunity, well, it's almost like saying, okay, you have one guy who wears fire retardant clothes and the other guy who wears non-fire retardant, right? If there was a fire, who's going to catch on fire? Ta-da!
That-
Here's
That's
your answer.
that's that's a great analogy. I mean, that's exactly. And Charlie, all we have we have that's a good thing for people not to get very sick and to die. So if we can get through this pandemic with a situation where no one gets really sick and no one dies, and no one gets lasting effects of COVID, uh, because they got vaccinated, we're in a much better place. We're in a much better place. But you would think that we would be more careful until we know for a fact, uh, how long does this vaccine last. We're right there. We're 6 months now. This is probably a good opportunity to put the other story up.
Mhm.
This is one of the most. This is the most deceptive headline I've seen in a long time. So this was in the New York Times, and it says, this was printed in a Star Advertiser, but came out of the New York Times. Immunity to coronavirus may persist for years, scientists says, or scientists find. So I read, when I saw the headline, I thought this is exactly what I was hoping for. that in fact they found. Now, how the hell can they find out when we've only had people been vaccinated for about 6 months or so? But whatever. It intrigued me that they figured this out. And then you read on, and it says immunity to the coronavirus lasts at least a year, probably much longer, and improves over time, especially after vaccination. According to two new studies, the findings may help put to rest lingering fears that protection against the virus will be short lived. So, Charlie, I read that. I thought about the Mel and Charlie show. I said, these jackasses in New York are writing this story and
Mhm.
they're disrespecting us. And I'm thinking, how the hell would they know this? And you read on, and it says this is where I'm surprised this didn't make the headline. Together, the study suggests that most people who have recovered from COVID-19, most people who have recovered from COVID-19, in other words, you got COVID-19 and you recovered, and who were later immunized will not need boosters. Vaccinated people who were never infected, which is the majority of people, most likely will need the shots. However, as will a minority who were infected but did not produce a robust immune response. So when you read the headline, autumn, boom, wow, we just found out that the immunity is going to be forever, for years and years and years. No, no, come to find out, they're finding that if in fact you had COVID and you got a vaccine later, looks like the immunity built up from the natural, from the real virus and the vaccine may help you be immune longer. But those of us that have not got COVID are going to still need boosters. So this goes again, Charlie, back to what the point that you made a month or two ago. We don't know until that period of time passes, the 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, whatever the period is, we don't know. And is this country ready to start pumping out booster shots to everybody that had the vaccine? Now, this perfect storm of vaccinating or vaccinated people that may not be immune anymore or have less immunity with the increase in travel for summer, is this going to create a perfect storm that we may see a bump in cases? That is all I was concerned about. And yet, Lieutenant Governor keeps talking about total immunity, total immunity, total immunity. He doesn't talk about for how long, for how long. So, now we sit back, Charlie. That's why I still wear my mask. That's why I still wear my mask. And I will continue to wear my mask until we get those questions answered. And the only way we're going to get those questions answered is by waiting, being safe, and making sure that you protect your loved ones, because we don't know how long the effectiveness of the vaccine is.
Yeah. We this past year, I think, I can't gauge because I was never in a pandemic before. There are some people much older than you or I that have been in several pandemics. So I didn't know what to expect. But what I do know now is that I'm probably a test subject, and I'll just have to monitor myself. God willing, He lets me live, many more years, that I can see if how long that this thing's at. Then I can be a testimony of me, myself, and I that yep, vaccine worked because it's still going strong. You know, I've got I'm still fighting it off. But like sometimes you kind of wonder, right, when you're doing a test subject, to see how effective it is. Charlie, I'm going to ask you not to use a mask because I really want to see how effective it is. And I'm going to say, well, no, you use somebody else. I am going to use a mask. You're going to have somebody's going to have to be the sacrificial lamb to find out. And then if you're going to do a comparison, in police work, we said if we're going to compare something, don't we always try to find the ideal comparison? Same height, same weight, you know, same health status. You don't put a sick guy with a healthy guy. You're just not going to get the right results you're trying to achieve, right? You want to know what that third element, what that extra element being added on to each of these individuals, how it affects them. Like how they do tests with men and women. We know that women have certain, genes that men don't, or opposite. And um, it's just like I remember when we talked about DUIs. If you have a man and a woman, same height, not same height, but same weight, and they consume the same amount of glasses of wine, that the blood alcohol level in women will rise faster because of the hydrogenous genes that men have. Okay, the women don't. So the thing that boosts the blood alcohol level. So is with this vaccine. How do you compare? Some people it will stay for much longer, and some people will be short-lived. But we don't know. We just don't know. Now I'm hoping maybe I said this comment to you a couple of times. I said, "Hey, were we so hard on ourselves that maybe we took a wrong path? Maybe I wonder if don't you ever find yourself guessing sometimes? Yeah, I wonder if we was wrong about this whole thing from the get-go, right? Because I sure get that way sometimes. But that doesn't mean I'm going to throw in the towel and give up. I said, no, I've been going like this for the last 14 months with you. I said, yeah, I just will keep on going.
Well, I think, like I said, what started out as just a rap session between two friends,
Yep.
forced us to start exploring, forced us to start looking for experts, and we were lucky enough to get a bunch of experts. So, had our leadership been in line with the experts, there would be no need for our show. There would be absolutely no need if, in fact, our experts at the state level were following the experts' recommendations and information. And when it became clear that it wasn't, when they weren't,
Mm-hmm.
then it was clear that we had, it's almost like, like CPR, Charlie. When you start doing CPR, you cannot stop.
Right.
You're not supposed to stop. And it's like this show, we got to a point where there was a lot of people that were relying on this show. And listen, I'm not saying this to get accolades or thank yous or what. I'm just saying that there are a lot of people relying on this show for the information. So now it became an obligation for us to make sure we put out good information. And we could have brought on, opinionated people and just have fun with that. But no, we didn't want to do it. We wanted to bring on experts that had science-based uh, and had science-based discussions. So people had an opportunity to listen. You can listen to the experts that came on our show. And I think people, it's very difficult, like you said earlier, Charlie, to get people on, especially the people we brought on because of their schedules and so forth. But if you could make a choice, and you always said this, right? You take the information we provide and do what you want with it. But you could take that information. All I was hoping that we would have something to compare what we were being told by our state leadership, and many times they were in conflict. Many times they were in conflict, but that's not what we were looking for. We had put out, Charlie, and you know this, we had invited um, guests to come on our show that were
Mm-hmm.
in alignment with our leadership, but they would never come on the show. No medical expert would come on our show to endorse what was being proposed or done by our state. Till today.
Right.
Till today, no one, you show me one person. Anyway, I challenge any one of our viewers. Go out and find me a medical or epidemiological expert that will tell you that herd immunity is at 75% today. Find me one besides Josh Reed. Find me one that will tell me, no, Mel, the experts are wrong. It's at 70%, 75%. You're not going to find that. Find me another expert that will tell you a medical expert or a scientist or an epidemiological expert. Find one that can tell me that this vaccine provides you total immunity after 14 days after your second shot or your J&J. Find me one. I want them on our show. They don't exist. They don't exist because that's not reality. That's what this show
Right.
was for, Charlie. It was to put out factual, science-based information. Science-based information for our viewers to get at least get something to think about. That's all.
Not to divert off to a different subject. But remember when we were saying, and I thought about it more and more, and I said, we should do because of our background, what would be really neat is maybe we start doing reports on cold cases. I said, just and maybe jog the mind of our viewers, and maybe they could contribute to maybe solving some of these cold cases. I think that would be kind of interesting. Just try something. But I did want to say this now. This ride has been a good ride, and I at one point we were talking about this already, but you're right, because just when you think that everything has reached its end, some nuance come into has come into view, right? And like you said, because of our ex-police minds that we have, I call it just being nailing. I see something coming across the screen. I'll keep on looking at the damn thing, like, where is it going? And I'm going to follow it until I find out where the hell it's going. And I think that's what's happening with this, because variants came on the scene, came on hot and heavy, right? The variants. First was 429 and 427, California 429 and 427. Then came the UK variant, right? And then all of a sudden, boom, variants went away. They talk about it subtly. They don't talk about it that much. It was like the new norm. But if we had got accustomed to the information of COVID-19, when you talk about variants, I look at it as a totally different ball game now, because it made up a different dynamic on how this virus was going to act. And it was fooling a lot of scientists, right? It was fooling a lot of scientists. So the talk on variants became very quiet at one point. It was almost non-existent. But yet I tell myself, yeah, the numbers are going down, but why is there still cases being reported? I don't care how big or how small. Why is there still cases being reported? And something's happening. And lo and behold, it's the variants again, the P1. I believe that's the Brazilian variant, 90% concerning to the experts. So, and remember I said about numbers, right? There's always that quantifying factor. Well, if we took our numbers and look at what was happening stateside when they had those big spikes, right? We were almost like the one saying, the boy who cried wolf. We're getting prepared, we're getting nailed because stateside we're getting big numbers, right? Uncontrolled spikes. Never happened in Hawaii. One, we should be very thankful. Thank our lucky stars it didn't. But we got accustomed to like the false missile alert. We're getting ready. The missile is coming, but it ain't coming because why? Some boo-boo during the test, we pressed the wrong button. Okay, got it. But then we started to just sit back and just say, you know what? Because I've heard this before. Some say, if what's going to happen already, but never happened. So it's all hogwash. That kind of stuff, that becomes contagious. It becomes more contagious than the virus itself. And then when that BS starts floating around up there, that's where everybody put on their guard. And you know what? I probably would be one of those. And again, I said, I promise I would never say this again. I probably would be one of those naysayers if my brother didn't die from this damn thing, because his was fast. I didn't even know that it could go that fast. That virus was like at warp speed, hyper warp speed. Talk to them in one day, next boom, next day no can talk already. How can that be? Does this virus first attack your jaw muscles where you cannot move your mouth and you cannot talk anymore? Does it do that? That's what happened. Basically, no can talk, to stare, and boom, lights out. And so that's why I said, man, something's got to be with this thing.
Well, back then we didn't know much about this virus. Your brother and all of those that, that died in the early months.
Yeah.
They didn't know what the hell hit them. I'm talking about the doctors that were treating these patients. They had no clue. They were trying to figure out what was going on, and those guys were all part of the process that got us where we're at today as it relates to the treatment and so forth. But yeah, a lot of people died, and this virus is acts differently on different people. We know, Charlie, we know friends that have COVID that are recovering, still recovering.
Mm-hmm.
We know some that we don't even know if they'll ever fully recover. And not much talk is spoken about those people. The ones that are struggling every day, that's still going through respiratory therapy, still on oxygen, have issues like Senator Kalani English came out publicly to talk about his issues. No one talks about those people. It's 99% of the people survive or recover. No, that's not true. What is the real number of people that fully recover? We know about people. I'm not gonna mention names. Some of them on the show right now that were generous enough to come on the show and share their story and come back to share about recovery. And we know that that's real. But not much is said about that. It's just no, if you didn't die, you're all good. No, that's not true with this virus. And that's what I'm afraid of, is that these variants are being allowed to reproduce and replicate, that we don't know what will happen if, like I said, the perfect storm, if the variants hit at the same time our vaccine loses its potency. Are we going to see another devastating surge that will see a lot of people in the hospital? And that is what I don't hear that discussion. I don't hear that discussion. And I think that's kind of the frustration. Because
Yeah.
again, when you hear the messaging, it's always, man, Blangiardi comes out and says, our whole process, our whole policy has changed. We don't even look at case counts anymore. He said this a while back, but yesterday or today, I think it was during the governor's press conference, he reiterated that they only look at hospitalizations and deaths. Wow, that's kind of scary thinking, because I think you better pay attention to the numbers. You better pay attention to the amount of virus that is in our state, because you don't know when the vaccine potency gonna end. And if it does, that second wave or third wave, whatever it'll be, will be bad.
Let me ask you this question. You have 100 people. 20 of them, all 100 people, all 100 catch COVID. 20 of them require hospitalization, ventilation. The other 80 just cough, 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 feel miserable for weeks to come. That 80, if they base it on the hospitalization numbers, I can see why you're going to say the number count is small. We only get 20. You just want to disregard 80 people that's still struggling, but they're right at that brink that they don't need hospitalization. They're right at that brink, like, you're not that really sick yet. But if you're a little bit more to the point that you pass out, then you're eligible to come in. But other than that, you go stay home. You're not going to count those people if you're going with this hospitalization, so-called, what the numbers that you're looking for, right? Because you're only going to have 20 in the hospital. So in the minds of them, they say, wow, it's kind of low right now. We only have 20. Okay, what about the other 80? They tested positive too. And they can take that and give it to other people. And you have now the multiplier factor where you go 80, each one touches 2 people. Now that branches off. Those 2 people touches 4 people. That branches off, and you just be spreading it that way. Hopefully, with these vaccines, that's what we're trying to stop. But I'm just trying to drive the point in that if you're gonna say something like that, just like you said, we want to go to tier 4 when we hit 50% vaccination. So my question was, okay, what are you using as a number? Are you using a population or the island as a whole? So some people said, well, the population. I said, yeah, if that number stays static, it doesn't move. But yet you've got other people coming into adding to those numbers that you're totally bypassing. You're not even thinking about. But yet, could they be infected and could they carry on the infection? That's what this is all about. Then when you get this whole period where you got, okay, taking the whole population, then again, how can you say 50% vaccination when our economy is driven on travelers? So we always have this influx, in and out, in and out. The numbers are always shifting. You'll never know you'll never get to that point when you know 50% have been vaccinated. It just will not work.
This is, let me put this up. Let me just put this up real quick, because this is, and we hear this a lot. So that just assume that's a little bar chart. Sorry for the shitty drawing, but that's ICU beds. ICU beds. So the whole bar is all ICU beds available. The governor's office continues to say we only have 6 or 12 or 18 in COVID patients. This number. So we have all of this capacity. What they're not talking about is this red area right here for non-COVID patients that's in the hospital right now. So why can't they come out and say, what is the hospital capacity of ICU beds right now? We know for a fact that in some of the bigger hospitals, they're at 90% capacity. Yeah, maybe not with COVID, but if we get another surge and we're pushing fate when we do things like taking away mask mandates, when we open travel all at the same time, that's not a thorough an accurate picture when you say, oh, we only have 12 people, 30 people. This time last year we had 60 or 80 people in the hospital. No, because you're not counting, you're not talking about the red zone where non-COVID persons currently occupy. That is the kind of information, because it doesn't matter whether you COVID or not. If you need an ICU bed, you better have one available or you may die. Stroke, heart attack, car accident, surgeries, all of the things that go on every single day in hospitals. So you don't just count the COVID cases. And that is what I think people got to understand, is that, when you're talking about hospital capacity, the COVID number is just a very small part of it. You got to consider the total capacity and what's available at any given time.
What you got to do is, if you ever had a chance, if anybody ever has a chance, and I used to see this all the time when I was at the medical examiner's office. While waiting to investigate a case, I would spend time, you're talking to the ward clerks, you're just waiting until I can get more information. And, you sit around and you watch the screen, as you enter like the ER, there's always a person there and there's a screen right above that person. It's very interesting to watch, because I think when COVID came on, what we should talk about is illnesses. Forget about the name to it. The illness can be a heart attack, can be a stroke, can be an embolism, can be anything, right? Can be COVID. Just erase that. If that hospital ER is full and the beds are full, you will look up on that screen and you will see on divert. So somebody posted a question, what is that divert? That is when, say, The ambulance is coming, and the closest hospital to that ambulance is Queens Medical Center. If Queens Medical Center does not have any room right at that point, they're going to divert to Straub. And this has happened before. Straub lights up and says, you need to divert. They'll divert to Palomomi. Sometimes you divert so much, and the accident was right around the corner from Queens, but because you don't have the capacity, you divert them all the way out to St. Francis West, which is now what, Queens West, right? Out in Ever Beach. That's how the divert works. And I didn't really pick up on that until I actually spent a day while waiting for my case. And I was looking at the screen and I seen these red things flashing on the screen. I go, what the heck is that? They said, they're on divert. So I was at Wahiawa General. I said, so what does that mean? He says, well, if the last resort get nobody else, they're coming to Wahiawa General. That means from all the way in town, coming all the way to Wahiawa General. So that's what, like you said, when you start talking, you may have a small percentage of COVID, but that small percentage of COVID too takes up bed space, and it shares the same bed space that others are vying for. So what they should do is look at the whole picture and say, this hospital has X number of beds in the ICU. Concentrate on that. If the patient qualifies for the ICU, whether the patient has COVID, heart attack, stroke, will that patient be able to get a spot in that ICU? Now, you look at places like the hospitals in Asia, they get real creative. When there's no space, where do they put them? In the hallways, in the lobby, right? They start doing stuff like that.
Well, I just wish they would be more transparent with us. I did want to put up one more. This is just as a public service announcement for you all. Charlie, you'll appreciate this one.
Uh-oh.
This is no, this is not. This is tomorrow night on PBS.
Mm-hmm.
Travel guidelines, Lieutenant Governor Green, Mike Victorino, Maui Mayor, Mitch Roth, Hawaii County Mayor, Peter Ingram, President CEO of Hawaiian Airlines, and John DeFreitas, Product Development, Panda Travel. So they are going to share what their guidelines are as far as travel. So for anyone that's interested, tomorrow night at 8 o'clock on PBS, it'll be on Insights. Insights is a really good show. I enjoy their shows.
You know what? Before you take it down, Mel, you know what's interesting? All of them have something to do, with the exception of Josh Green, who's government. Well, the two mayors, is revenue generation, right?
Yep.
I would think that they would have maybe like someone who's the front line, battles the front line. How come they don't bring them on? So they can talk about how travel guidelines is affected should the traveler get sick, right? It's almost like when they had their first conference with the governor, they had everybody from the industry, but nobody from like the health department talking, with the exception of Anderson. You remember?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I remember.
That's what this is like. You got everybody in the money-making range and nobody who basically is saying, okay, when somebody gets sick, I'm going to be the one taking care of that person. I would like to hear from them.
Well, it's a free commercial for Hawaiian Airlines and Panda Travel. That's what it'll be. I'm gonna try to watch. I'll see how long I can tolerate that thing.
Yep.
I'm trying to pull up the hospitalization thing statewide, but anyway, the Hawaii COVID-19.com has the numbers. And what's interesting is when I talk to people that are working in hospitals and they're giving me the numbers, it's kind of is not the same as what we've been told. So I'm not going to say that they're lying, but they don't have. I wish they were accurate. I wish it was accurate. So let me see. ICU beds and ventilators.
Marie Street. Yes, you're absolutely right. The recent article of flight attendants getting punched in the teeth on flights. That's why I made the comment earlier. What happened to our illustrious Air Marshals program? It's supposed to be on these planes for the safety of the travelers. I would think, since terrorism is down, you should have more air marshals because now you got domestic terrorism in the form of people just not wanting to abide by the federal rules. And that is, they came out and said, you shall wear a mask on the plane, public transportation. So,
Yeah. Anyway, guys, it's 8 o'clock, man. That one went fast. Don't forget Friday night, guys. We have Coach Charlie Wade with the UH men's volleyball. He will be on. He'll be our guest on Friday night to share his season and the tough challenges of COVID during the volleyball season. And then Saturday morning, they'll be at Puhi Park at the Sunshine Market from 10 to 11:30. So if anyone is interested in meeting the coach and the players, you got some local boys in there. Take a picture, get some autographs. Masking, well, I guess now masking not required, but social distancing will be strictly enforced. I believe because of the crowd, masking will be required as well. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is Charlie Wade and his team will be here on Saturday, but more importantly, he'll be on our show Friday night at 7 o'clock. So please join us Friday night. Charlie, any closing thoughts?
as always, my brother, thank you to the many, all 96 of you tonight for joining us. It's been an eye-opening, thank you for allowing me to let my hair down as short as it may be. I really appreciate it. And Jesse, don't push it, Jesse. I know, I was hoping you don't bring that up, Jesse, but yeah, Mel will read your comment soon.
Is it what one was that?
She's asking about, are you playing against the players?
Oh yeah. Charlie and I, we're calling out the two best players, and we're gonna take them on.
Oh boy!
I'm warming up already, guys. I'm warming up already.
Yeah.
You see?
Well,
you see this right here, Charlie? That scar. That is from an injury that required a plate to be put in my neck. Right now, my neck is bionic. It's secured with a plate and screws, cannot be broken. You see what I'm saying?
Well,
oh, man.
Brother, this is all I got to say.
Fresh out of the oven, Charlie. Fresh. She just said, this is still hot.
Brother Charles says, yeah. This used to be one of my favorite jokes when I first started telling jokes. Guy walks up and he's doing this all the time. So his buddy asks him, "Hey, what you doing? What's that?" The guy goes, World War One. Okay. So his buddy started doing this. So his friend asked him, "Hey, what's that?" He goes, World War Two. Then here comes man on the scene. And he's like this. And the guy's going, "Hey, what's that, man?" And he said, "That's from my nose."
Oh. Why you do that when I eating one cookie?
Because you're not sharing with me. That's why I had to do that joke.
This thing is still hot. Right. I know it's my wife.
Yes, sir.
I know it's my wife, but I gotta tell you, my wife can bake.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing like, and I don't even like sweets, but when it comes out of the oven, she always gives me the first one to test, make sure it's okay.
Some people, I'm like one of those, in the malasada come right out of hot oil.
Oh.
You don't even dry them off. You just put them in your mouth. Then you wonder why you talk with on short tongue after half the tongue burn off. Yeah, that's the reason.
You know, that was
Watch out, bro. Your dentures gonna fall out. Watch out.
mm, one of the nice things about being born pure Portuguese, pure, is I grew up with a grandma. Tyson, get over here now before it's gone. Um, my grandma Raposo. Every so often you see they put her picture in the garden island, but she had a stone oven, the old authentic stone ovens, and she would make bread and malasadas. And I am so lucky that growing up as a kid, we got to eat them straight out of that oven. Charlie, you know what? You cannot
I gotta
you
watch.
cannot duplicate that. You know, you cannot duplicate that. Um, and I just that those memories will stay with me forever and ever and ever. Now my dad is watching from Seattle. It was his mom, and we were blessed with that. We were able to participate and watch. The only thing I regret is I didn't learn how. I really didn't learn how. But
I want to say
I'm thinking, um, my auntie that lives across the hospital has a stone oven. My auntie Aruda, and maybe I can go learn from her. But what a tradition! And
yep.
the
You know, some
malasada, I mean,
people
the chocolate chip cookie is delicious, but nothing can replace the old style cooking, the bread.
someone asked, goes, Uncle Charlie, what happened to the Snickers? Well, those days are over. My lovely wife is blocking the light. That's why I'm dark right now. Okay, now she's moving away. There's the light again. Yeah. Um, and the only reason why is I have to be more responsible. Because the last time I went to the ER, I showed you the pictures, but I told you I'm okay. But when they poked me for my sugar, it was like 298, almost 300, and it should be like about 110. So, case in point, it's good to have fun, but not too much fun. So just bring it down. I just throttling down. So you guys can be stuck with me for many more years. I just gotta throttle back, eat healthy, which, yeah, I gotta admit, I'm getting pretty darn close to being a vegan, but not there yet 100%, but pretty darn close. Once I get over the hurdle of eating bell peppers, then I achieve the golden grail at that. Yeah.
You know, nothing wrong with being vegan, bro. Nothing wrong.
Yep.
I you know, when I had my gout, I lost 35 pounds just because of gout. So,
Yep.
you know what, we all can eat better. We all can be more healthy. And you know what, guys? Now is the time to be healthy. To be healthy.
Mhm.
So let's make it a challenge amongst all of our viewers. Let's all be more healthy. Let's all eat. You know what? I take back that chocolate chip cookie that I just ate. I take them back. Sorry, I ate
Mhm.
that. Anyway,
No, you're not sorry. I seen that smile. Every plate was this. Take this. Take that.
actually, I'm gonna have another one.
There you go. All I think.
Anyway, guys, hey, thank you all again. I know it's we kind of winding down on our show. Not sure where we're gonna go from here, but we'll still be on for now. Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. Friday, don't forget Charlie Wade and the UH volleyball team. Hopefully you guys can join us in. So we appreciate you guys. We love you guys. You guys stay safe. God bless. Aloha.